good morning, Transit. How are we doing today? We're going to try it one more time. Good morning, Transit. How are we doing today? Wow, so good to see you. Hey, if it's your first time here, we're so glad that you're here. My name is Lauren, and today we are wrapping up a series that we're calling Trustworthy, where we've been talking about generosity over the last couple of weeks. And before we dive in, I know it's March, and I know we're about to talk about Easter and spring break, but I would like to talk about Christmas for just 1 second, if that's okay. So when I was a kid at Christmas time, my brother and I, we always had the classic tradition of we'd wait in our rooms until our parents told us it was ready to go to the tree, and then we'd run to the tree, and we'd see all the gifts, and it was so fun. This is actually a picture of us one Christmas morning. Look at how cute are we. Oh, my gosh. It looks like we're getting along here. So we run to the tree, and I am a very organized person. I've always been an organized person, so I needed to sort the gifts, which probably wasn't fun for anyone else in my family now I think about it, but whatever. So I am making everyone a pile. We have Lauren's pile, we have Kyle's pile, we have Mom's pile and Dad's pile, sorting out all the gifts. Everybody gets their pile, they're all happy. And I step back, and I don't say it out loud, but in my head, I start counting everyone's gifts. Just curious. Now, I don't really pay attention to Mom and Dad's piles. They were always smaller than ours, but that's okay. So I'm looking at Kyle's pile, and I start counting them, and I start counting mine, and I'm comparing, and there were two good options in my mind. Either we had the same amount of gifts, or the better option is that I had a few more. And if I had less, it ruined my whole morning. But I never told anybody. Now, keep in mind, these gifts were all wrapped, so I had no idea what was in the gifts. I had no idea how much the gifts were worth. I just knew that I was comparing what I had to what he had, and I wanted it to be the same, if not more. Now, once the gifts were opened, I'd realize, oh, Kyle received a book called It's Potty Time, and so that's not really a gift I want. Oh, Kyle also got a massive fire truck. That's not really a gift I want, but did we get the same amount? And so even as kids, we are so tempted, and it's so easy to look to the left and to look to the right and to try to compare what we have and make sure it measures up to what the people around us have as well. Now, I wish I could tell you and say, as you get older, it's easier to not compare. As you get older, the comparison trap doesn't follow you into every area of your life. I wish I could say that, but unfortunately, I can't. It's so easy to get stuck in the comparison trap, no matter how old you are. But even when it comes to things like generosity, it is very easy to compare. It's very easy to look around and to see what everyone else is doing, and we can get stuck in the trap where we look around and we notice people, and we notice how much they're giving, how much time they're spending, all the things they're doing, and we get stuck in that comparison, and we think, well, I want to give more. I want to do more. I want everybody to notice me, to recognize what I'm doing. Or on the flip side of that, we look around and we think, well, I can't compete. I can't give that much. I can't do that much, so why bother at all? And I think for a lot of us, especially when we're in middle school, it's easy for us to count ourselves out because we look around and we think, I can't do all the things they're doing. I can't do a lot, so I might as well not do anything at all. And the unfortunate truth is we tend to measure generosity by the size of the gift rather than the heart behind it. We tend to measure generosity by how much everyone else is doing. But true generosity, it's not about comparison. It's not a competition. It's not about being recognized for what you do. True generosity is about the intention and the heart behind it. And so it is so easy to pay more attention to the how much than the why when it comes to generosity. And when we do that, when we find ourselves spending too much time caring about the how much we're doing compared to others instead of why we're doing what we're doing, one, I think we miss out on the good that generosity can bring, not just to the people we're being generous towards, but to our hearts as well. But also, I think it is a sign, it's a warning signal that our hearts are in the wrong posture. And so we're going to look at a story today about Jesus in Mark chapter 12. And in this story, Jesus is at the temple in Jerusalem, and he's sitting near what was called the temple treasury. That was where they took their offering towards the temple, and he's watching all these people bring their giving, bring their money to give towards the temple, and he notices someone, and I want us to pay attention to what he says about her. This is in Mark chapter 12. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. So I love that the author uses the word throw to describe how the wealthy people were giving their money. They were throwing their money. And what do we know about throwing? That if you're throwing something, it doesn't have a lot of value to you. It doesn't mean a lot to you. It's not incredibly significant. Because if they have so much money that they're able to throw it, they must be fine without it. But not only that, when we throw something, it brings attention to us. They're not just placing it, they're tossing it, they're making a show of it, they're throwing their money around. And then a poor widow walks in, a woman who has lost her husband, who is not wealthy. She walks into the temple and she places 2 coins. And these are just 2 pennies. And of course, this was not the currency they used back then, but it was just 2 small coins that she placed into the offering. Now, I did some research, and the coins that she would have used, they were called lepta. And each lepta was worth about 94 cents. So in total, she gave less than $1. So she had about $1.88 in our terms, and she placed it in the offering. Now, we know that $1.88 wouldn't get you much. It actually wouldn't do a lot of good. There's not much you could buy for less than $2 these days. But if this is everything you have, this is incredibly valuable. And yet she placed it in the offering. Not because she was forced, not because she was unwise with her money, but I believe because her heart was in the right place, and I also believe because she knew this was never hers to begin with. Everything we have comes from God. And so Jesus notices this, and this is what he says about her. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on." Now, before you get nervous, I'm not going to tell you that you need to go home and look between all the couch cushions and in the car and try to find all the loose change and the coins and all that and give all your money away. I don't think that's the moral of the story. But what I want to pay attention to is her heart behind her giving, because to her, this was not a competition. There wasn't the comparison trap. She gave out of her generosity. But most importantly, she gave knowing that her heart was in the right place, knowing that it wasn't ever hers to begin with. But let's think about this, because if she walks into the temple and she sees a lot of wealthy people throwing money around, throwing a lot of money around, how easy would it have been for her to determine that she couldn't do anything? That those 2 coins weren't going to help at all? Or for her to feel embarrassed or ashamed and just walk away, believing that she couldn't make a difference, believing that she couldn't give generously. How much would she have given? 0, right? She would have given nothing. And we can look back at that and we can think, well, it's one person, it was only 2 coins, it's not a big deal. But imagine if everybody in here decided that they couldn't do anything. Imagine if everyone in here decided that they didn't have the resources, that they didn't have the time, that they weren't able to actually be generous, that they weren't able to help. What a shame that would be. Not only for the community, because I believe there would be a massive loss, but for our hearts and for us as well, because imagine if in the fall, when you heard about Holiday House, and that we were going to go shopping together and you were going to buy gifts for people in our community together. Imagine if everybody in here decided, nah, I can't do enough. I can't do the most, so I can't do nothing at all. I can't help. Why bother? How many gifts would we have brought in? 0. Imagine if some of you who serve in Upstreet and Wumbaland had thought, no, I don't have the time. I'm not a good enough leader. I can't help over there, so I'm not even going to bother. How many hours would we have served in Upstreet and Wumbaland this year? 0. And last week, a lot of you left and you filled out a commitment card, and if you believe that you actually couldn't help East Cobb and the next 2 campuses and transit students have a space like this, or if you thought building a building is really expensive, I can't even make a dent, I only have $1, I can't do much. Imagine if all of us counted ourselves out, how much money would we have committed to helping East Cobb? 0. And what a shame that would be. And I'm so grateful that that is not the belief of Browns Bridge Transit. Y'all are very generous. You have proven it over and over again. I know for a fact last year with Holiday House, we had a record-breaking turnout of gifts. I know many of you serve in Upstreet and Wumbaland every single week. And I know last week thousands of dollars was committed to helping East Cobb. Because I believe you are generous people. But here's the thing that we need to look out for. Is it is so easy to start comparing. And it is so easy to count ourselves out or to want to be the best and to want to be seen. And I don't want us to be people who care about that. I want us to be people who give generously because we know it's what we're called to do. We know it honors God when we give generously. But the truth is, and Jesus makes it clear, it is not about the amount. It's about our hearts. The amount is amazing and it's cool and that's so great and so many people's lives are impacted by that, and yes, it matters. But at the end of the day, when it comes to generosity, I don't care. If it's $1 or $1 billion, if your heart is not in the right posture, you are missing out. You are missing the goal of generosity. We are called to give and honor God with our giving, and we are called to give out of love and kindness and faith. And I believe we are a group who do that already, but as we continue through this challenge over the next few months, as we start Holiday House at the end of the year, as we run into more opportunities to serve in Upstreet or Wumbaland or whatever it is, when we have an opportunity to be generous, I want us to make sure that we know our hearts need to be in the right place. And we need to be people who give because we've been called to give, and who give because we want to love the people around us well. So we're going to talk about this a little more in small group today, but as you head to group, I want you to think about this question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how easy is it for you to be generous? 1 being it's so easy, I don't even think about it. 5 being it's a little more difficult for me to see that I can actually make a difference or to want to make a difference. There is no wrong answer. Your small group should be the safest space to talk about anything, so just be honest. And that's okay. And so I'm going to pray for you, and then we'll head to small group. Father, thank you so much for Transit, for this place where we can come every Sunday to play silly games and to worship you, Father, and to grow in our faith. And God, I'm just so grateful for this group of people. I'm so grateful for a group of students who want to be generous, who want to give, who see a need and meet it. And Father, as we continue to do that, not just for the next few months, but for the rest of our lives, Father, if our hearts are not in the right spot, if we're not doing it with good intentions, God, will you just remind us? Father, will you just reveal that to us? Because we want to be people who love well, who give generously. And so, Father, just help us do that. God, we love you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.